Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm here with my friend Alexandre at Steel Buffalo Motors. Buffalo Motors, as Alexandre calls it, is the best joint in Los Angeles. You know, it's a great bike shop where they service anything from e-bikes to Vespas, scooters, Triumph, Harley Davidson, all the way to Indian Motors, of course, which is their specialty. I have said this before. Steel Buffalo Motors is to Indian bikes as AMG is to Mercedes. We are very excited to be here. They, of course, have some beautiful apparel and great cigars as well. And I'll be smoking cigars with my friend Alexandre. How are you doing, Alexandre?
Fine, thank you for the invitation.
It's my pleasure. Alexandre is someone who, in his profession, combines engineering and artistry, but I think from a personal standpoint as well. And as you can already observe, he is a man of style, so it's a great pleasure and privilege to have him.
Thank you very much.
So, Alexandre, you have practically just arrived in the US. How did that happen? How did that come about? Let's talk about that.
So it's been exactly a year in the US, and I'm working for a British company providing consultancy in the construction industry. I'm working with them for 7 years plus now. And I was here in Brazil, transferred to France, and then now transferred to LA for business purpose. So this is the reason why.
I mean, it is, simply said, it is for work, like you said, for business purpose, but having, been all around the world in a certain sense, and in locations that are perhaps not coincidental, you kind of have the background that you could have been working anywhere. You could have done this anywhere in the world. Why the US?
So the US is special in my heart since my parents divorced in '87, and the first trip we made with my father was the US. We visited the west part of the US, and arriving in LA, I say, this is where I want to live. This is where I want to work. This is my dream of life. And it took me 30 years to realize this dream because a lot of things happen. But as you mentioned, what I'm doing here, I could do that everywhere. And I think most of the job we have right now, we can do that everywhere. So the US is just a dream as a child.
It's been a dream more than 30 years in the making.
Yes.
The American dream.
Yeah.
So what aligned? What made it possible after all those years?
Oh, it's very easy. I took the decision. I was in France, so I was born in Paris, born and raised, but my mother is Brazilian, so I have both nationalities. And the second...
French and Brazilian.
Yeah, French and Brazilian. So the second time I was in France for work. Hey, Ben.
How you doing, brother?
Fine, and you? Thank you. I have a special relationship with France where I don't fit in France. It's my country. I love the country, but I don't fit there. And I was working on this project during the night, and I say, where do you want to go? And California was the answer to the question. And I took the decision. I made the arrangements with my company. They agreed on my transfer, and it happened.
I mean, it's it sounds to me perfectly French to be, to have this malaise, as you say,
Yeah.
with your own country. But you do have a particular background. How, growing up in France, did that have any particular role to play? Was being also Brazilian a part of your life growing up?
Yeah, so I received a very robust education from my parents, even if they were separated. I was raised part of my life by my grandmother, who was born in 1904, and I received this strong and robust, very French education with where culture is important, where knowledge is important, where respect is important. And my struggle with France right now is all this I received from my grandmother disappeared. And this is one of the reasons why I don't recognize France anymore. But this is my personal point of view. It's still magical to go to Paris, enjoy culture, the museum, the good food, the good life. The French cliche we love, we all love.
Yeah.
And the Brazilian give a little bit of positive energy. It's the right balance. It's like Formula One. You have Prost and you have Senna, and I'm more Senna, I'm more a positive person, very hardworking. So it's the Brazilian way. The Brazilian way is it teach you humility. So it's Brazil is a great country, but to achieve your goals, you need to put more efforts. You need to work harder. France is a little bit easier, I think, because you have everything. You have culture, you have health, you have a school, good school education. It's not the case today in Brazil. So Brazilian teach you to be humble and positive.
That's a great lesson to learn for just about anybody. Um, just being able to take pleasure in simple things that we get to
And you
enjoy
need to be
in
thankful
life.
for what you have. Yes, you're not where you should be, but good things happen with time. So it's step by step. It's not, oh, tomorrow I'll be the CEO of Amazon or Facebook, whatever. It's not the goal. You need to, it's like learning to walk. It's step by step. You will fall, and it's very acceptable to fail. And the experience is based on failure, basically. So good experience is made on bad judgment. So it's important to fail and learning from failure.
So you think you have perhaps learned more from the times that you have failed than the ones you have succeeded?
Yeah, because when you succeed, you're like, you glorious. You have this feeling, yeah, I'm the best. Oh, I did that. It's incredible. I'm so great. And you learn zero. When you fail, it's like, yeah, why did I receive the doors on my face? Why my relationship didn't work, or why I'm not good, when I'm not performing at work. And it's receiving feedback and accepting feedback, because if we all think that we are the best in our industry or what we are currently doing, means that maybe we have an ego too big and something is missing. So yeah, I'm enjoying failing, I would say, because I'm learning. I'm learning, and it gives me maturity on what I'm doing and more experience.
It's very interesting that you are basically saying you either have to be humble or you are going to be humble, but either way
Yeah, because
that
or you
develops your
decide to be
approach.
humble by yourself, or the universe, God, whatever you want to call the entity, will teach you humility by maybe in a way that you will struggle and dislike very much.
By the way, what are you, speaking of simple pleasures, what are you enjoying today?
Oh, this cigar is short Churchill that dear Ben gave me the other week, so I'm enjoying this small cigar. It's very nice, very smooth. It's a good starter for the afternoon.
Yeah, it's that's exactly the size. You can walk your dog with it. You can enjoy a little bit of a conversation. Of course, you can. That's the kind of cigar, even though that's not what I really prefer, that you can smoke on your own as well, I guess.
Hmm.
But it's good to smoke it with friends as well. So, since you came to the US, do you think it's what you imagined it to be? It's what you dreamt it up to be?
So as a person, I work this way. I never read feedback from other people. I never have, my expectation is to be open to what will arrive, will come to my life, because having, oh, this will happen, and the plan is not working, you feel bad. So if I arrive in the US saying, I want to be happy and I will make this happening. So you need to things let go, and you need to let good things happening to you, or anything that is happening. So you need to be open and accept that it might be different from your plan. If you say on Monday will be like this month, 6 months after I'm coming to the US, I will be a mega star, because I will be recognized in the parking area and the supermarket, and I will be the first lead of a big movie because I have a different.
But you're a star, and you are being recognized in the parking lot.
Yeah, by my neighbors.
Well, I mean, I think that's half the way. It's not really fun going through life without being greeted by your neighbors, without being approached by your friends, without having time for those little conversations and exchanges. So
that's true, but you need to be in peace with yourself, because if you're expecting for someone on the exterior to say you're great, this is the issue. If we all suffer COVID and the lockdown, and we all were with our own personality during the lockdown, and a lot of people suffer about this because they saw that there is an issue that they were refusing for years. I'm in peace for myself. So if I'm light, I'm laughing every day, everything is great. So the friends and the exterior factors are only the plus. It's the luxurious part of my life. Having you, James, Ben in my life is just the golden part of my life. It's we have nice conversation about cigars, cars, motorcycle, watches, whatever. It's the luxurious part. It's the goodies. It's the plus.
I mean, you are. I think you're putting your finger on something important here. I don't know if I can even articulate it, but you're right to think back to the pandemic, because that was a moment where people had to learn to be with themselves. I mean, of course, some people went into the lockdown with their entire families as couples and whatever. But if you are a single man, that was my case. That is a very different kind of experience, right? We talk a lot about the challenges of being in a modern society where we are all atomized as individuals, kind of these islands onto our own. But there was something that was even more exacerbated in the pandemic, and I think those of us who have emerged with the right mindset out of it were those who either already knew or had to learn how to be with themselves, how to be at ease with ourselves. I don't think that comes easily, though. I don't even think that comes naturally.
No, not for everyone. I can say maybe I'm built different, but I enjoy lockdown. I have a tremendous time. I had time to read. I had time to DIY. I had time to watch movies. I had time to focus on work. We were still working, so it was a good thing too. So I enjoyed this moment of reflection. I would say I will call that this way. It was a moment of my life where I was with someone and we split it just before lockdown, and she came back to Brazil, and I stayed in France. So it was a good moment of reflection and peace at the end. When the government decided to reopen everything, it was obviously glorious. We are all happy of this. But I can complain about the lockdown. I enjoyed this time with myself.
I was, I have to be honest, I was completely miserable. Um, there were moments where I really appreciated having the opportunity and having, really the blessing to be able to work on myself, because thankfully I didn't lose my job. Thankfully, I didn't lose, anyone who was really close to me. But it was a challenge, right? So I do, you might, if you are a well-read person, you might kind of have this sense of the human being as a social animal, right? But having that conceptual grasp is quite different than falling into this situation where you realize, like, shit, we actually need some sort of social existence, some real everyday social interaction to stay healthy. Of course, there were ways of replacing that. Of course, there were ways of using that opportunity to turning onto yourself and improving yourself, because like you said, that's basically the fundamental resource that we have, right? We talked a lot in these previous two episodes with Ben and James about taking care of others in society, and that can't happen until you really learn how to take care of yourself, right?
That's what pandemic was a good exercise for everyone, because yes, we were living in a digital world where the relationship was through Teams, Zoom, whatever product you were using. But I stay very connected with my family. We all live in different countries, and we were calling each other or spending the day together on the digital world. But I stay close to my colleagues. For example, I manage people on my day to day, and I know when someone feels bad. It's people working to all the days together, so when someone is not feeling well because he's alone. So I try to be always available to communicate, and I was reaching my teams twice a day to check that they have enough food, or they were happy, or at least they could smile once a day, because it's you said by yourself you were miserable, and you're not the only example. So I heard more people saying, "Oh, it was a very bad time, and I struggled and I suffered of the lockdown." I'm the only person, and my father mocked me every time, say you're only person that enjoy being by yourself. So it's interesting. So I tried to support as much as I could during lockdown.
I mean, honestly, again, I can still say with some confidence, and I used to say this perhaps even more confidently before the pandemic, that I enjoy being with myself, right? I like reading a lot, so I don't really feel that's deprived. But I was mostly in control of that situation before the pandemic. When it's enforced, it felt just so different, right? Because you are kind of losing that semblance of control you have over your life. You are not deciding, okay, I want to be alone now. So
Yeah.
it took a little bit of an extra work, a little bit of that adjustment that James and I were talking about in the last episode, to say, okay, I'm still in control. I'm still the captain of my ship. I can use some of this time to work on myself, to improve myself, to take care of myself. I can use some of this time to reach out to others, perhaps, friends that I didn't have time to connect, in the hustle and bustle of everyday life, friends who are physically distant, but now quite reachable, thanks to all these technologies that we now have. But for me, it took that adjustment. For me, it took that moment of sitting down and thinking carefully about what I can do. It didn't come naturally to me. So, do you find any similarity now? Now we are part of a friend group, and we hang out quite often with each other. In fact, like, I have separation anxiety. I message you when you are absent for 3-4 days. But did you feel that your experience coming into the country, fresh off the boat, so to speak, that in any way similar to what you experienced in the pandemic? Did you find again that you were mostly on your own, or not?
Yeah, there is similarity, but again, so I don't really believe in astrology, but I like some facts based on astrology. I'm a Sagittarius, so we normally have kind of people of adventure. So I like adventure, and this is the reason why when I'm hearing people say I'm afraid of death, I accept, I respect this feeling, but I'm waiting the time to see what happened, because no one came from death, and this is the biggest adventure of our life. But to come back to your question, there is similarity, but the difference is it's lighter to live in the US. It's lighter to have you, James, and Ben in my life. It makes things happier. It's not 100% perfect. Unfortunately, there is some aspect of the day-to-day that is complicated. Paperwork, the setup in the US is quite complicated. But at the end, having our group of friends and the discussion we have makes things better and easier.
So you didn't you didn't really struggle to find
No, because
find some new friends coming into this
no,
country.
because cigar is something particular. Or you love it, or you hate it, and there is not in between. There is not people going to a cigar club just for a conversation.
Just to, well, that's another thing that we can get into, but just to kind of share this with our audience, the cigar lounge that we go to is like a fishbowl. So a lot of people, even though it's out of sight, out of mind in a certain way, and very secluded in its own way, and that's something I cherish. uh, Still, a lot of people pass by, a lot of people look inside, and perversely perhaps, something that gives me great pleasure is when you can see the kind of hate and distaste they have for cigar smoking when they're passing by. You can see it etched in their facial expression, in their gestures and mannerisms, and I kind of like that. It makes me enjoy that cigar.
Yeah, we have this conversation, you and I, because I enjoy to see that as well, because we're living in a civilization where we need to be open to every situation, to everyone, depending religion, color, whatever. And seeing these people passing in front of Nas, where we're smoking cigars, so we can see the judgment on the face, and I kind of, yeah. So you telling that you're a very open-minded person in the world, but actually we saw when you pass in front of the shop where we all smoking cigar, we can see the true nature of who you are. So it's very interesting. So it's not being pervert whatsoever, but I like to see the real face of the people.
I've never thought of it like that. I was thinking, again, maybe psychoanalyzing people a little too much, but that there is something that people envy about simple pleasures. Envy about that kind of ease, comfort, and perhaps also luxury that cigar smoking represents. Because we do appreciate the finer things, but that I abide by, pardon me, by what Mr. Nazareth says almost every day, right? You don't pay $20 for a banana. So when I smoke cigars, I don't usually go for the most expensive, the most popular, or the most demanded, whatever. For me, it is about the most valuable thing I spend when I'm smoking cigars is my time. And I am very grateful for that luxury above all, that I can set aside some time in my day to be in company with friends, to have the chance to talk to them, converse with them, uh, most of the time about nothing. But it's even when it's just that, it's an extreme pleasure. Uh, but oftentimes, when you are talking about nothing, something quite profound comes out of it that you don't even expect. And for me, it is about those chance encounters. And I guess that's what brought you into, uh, or at least that's what you got out of the cigar lounge. how did you come across Nazareth's Fine Cigars in the first place?
So we need to go back a bit in history. So all the men in my family forever, they all smoke cigars. So mother's side of other side, it's the common things they have all. They all smoke cigars, and the cigar is actually a very very funny object because it's the image we have of cigar is you're a villain and this is luxury. But we never comment someone who will spend thousand $1,000 for a Petrus bottle or a Dom Pérignon bottle because he likes to drink, or when you go to the supermarket and you buy for $500 of food because you need food to calm your mind. Cigars were used by people to busy their mind while they were working in the field, or when they were it was used by the Indian here, the Native American and the Native American Brazilian. They were smoking cigars on a day to day, and when cigar was reached Europe, it was to calm people down. It was the original marijuana thing. So it's kind of
The original antidepressant.
yeah. So it's kind of funny. Yeah. Now you look like you're a villain in a James Bond movie because you're smoking cigar. So to answer your question, how I found Mr. Nazareth Place is I delivered 2 construction work in Beverly Hills, and after we had construction, you have always challenges and bad news. So I needed this time where I needed to breathe, and in my life, when I want to be in peace, I like to smoke a cigar. So I found this place, and what I love with Nazareth is it's exactly what I'm looking for, a place to smoke cigar. There is no it's not very huge. There is no particularity in the design. It's simple. You have couch, sofas, you have the display with the cigars, you have Nas behind his cash register. It's simple, and this is the reason why it's this place is extraordinary. It's because it's simple, and we all face together, and we can interact, decide to interact or not.
And that's the thing, right? It's actually, with all the stereotypes that people might have about a cigar lounge, and make no mistake, again, that's what you're implying. There are a lot of cigar lounges like that are very glitzy and very pretentious,
Show off,
and
yeah.
they're not really about smoking cigars and enjoying each other's company. Whereas, the brilliant thing about Mr. Nazareth's Place, beyond being actually the first proper cigar lounge in the United States, opened in 1985, is the fact that it's unpretentious, it's very neutral, it's very welcoming. Like you said, it is actually very thoughtfully structured to make everyone sit together facing each other without anyone being too far away from anyone else. And there is this very authentic atmosphere that is created by that.
There is no BS. It's one of my. There is no BS. So James is almost there every day, and what I like is we can discuss about movies. So we can mock Ben every time we go there, in a friendly way, obviously. But we can have nice conversation, and it's real conversation. It's not, oh, I just won a 10 million contract, I'm the best in the world. Oh, hey, Annie, give me a cognac or whatever. We don't have this kind of behavior. So.
The funny thing is, James can testify that as well. There are a few characters who are like that. And those are always the people who, if they're coming in new, they don't last for too long. If they have been there for a long time, it's usually, they're passersby. They come in maybe once a year, maybe even once in every 5 years. And it's clear that they feel out of place in a place where there are a lot of regulars who are not interested in showing off or or impressing each other?
Naz, in a way, reminds me this interview made by David Letterman with Joe Pesci
Okay.
when Casino was released in the movie theater, and they had this conversation, and they were talking about golf. And David Letterman asked to Joe Pesci, who are you playing golf with? And say, oh, I'm playing golf with Jack Nicholson and Dennis Hopper. And he say, wow, what a band of men. The club is running by maniacs. And in a fun way, it's what is Nazareth, because it's true personalities and it's strong characters. People are the way they are. They have bad days, and but it's a real conversation, real feelings. It's real people. It's not pretentious people or show off people, theater people. It's real. It's we have a true James coming smoking cigar. We have a true band with good days, bad days, but they're here to enjoy the time all together, and that's why we are meeting every week. So
Well, now that you mentioned Joe Pesci and Casino, I know you are a movie buff to a level that I don't experience myself, and I've hardly come across. And I know you said, it was a childhood dream, really, the first time you came to West Coast, in 1987. You wanted to come back here and build a life for yourself. But in that image you made up in your mind about America, about the United States, did the movies play a role at
yeah,
all?
number one, I love movies. So being in LA makes sense because, just for example, yesterday I did all my paperwork to pass my motorcycle driving license, and then after ending the session, I took my car and I went to Hollywood just to be around the studios because I love the feeling being around the studios, and this is the reason I choose LA, because for me it's movie and I love movies.
So what did you get when you were watching those movies? Since you were young, how did that make you feel? What kind of mindset did it inspire?
So I like the way movies are made. I like the glamorous part because movie is the only thing in life, like making watches, that offers you glamour. We are living in a very
And feel free to give any specific
yeah,
examples of
I will.
movies.
So we are living a very challenging world where we all struggle for something, and movies is like the dream where everything is absolutely working well and it's positive. If even a dark movie, it's nice to understand how you make a Chucky movie or The Exorcist. The horror movie is the best to make because it's comedy. You see yourself, these guys as a vampire, you should laugh. Maybe the movie is horrible to watch, but making the movie it's funny. So I'm living in Cover City, and Cover City is one of the base of. Um, you have the original studios. Citizen Kane was made in Cover City, so I like the. I have this kind of feeling from Europe where in the US they love to erase the past and rebuild because everything needs to be new. And living in Culver City, I still see the original studios. There is this building in one of the corner from Washington and Culver. The building was in Tron, for example, and this is one of
Mhm.
my favorite movies. So I like being able to see, to witness the this movie life in LA.
And you said you basically like good movies and bad movies in almost equal measure.
Yes, because you even a bad movie, you still find some quality of some creativity, and in good movies, not everything is good in the movie. You take a popcorn movie like Pirate of the Caribbean. There is a scene where they're in the boat, and you see some. So it's supposed to be in the 17th century, and you see people on the water just uh, blocking the boat not to go everywhere. So it's funny to see if even an $100 million production, you still have some mistakes, and this is human. So it's kind of funny. So good movies and bad movies, you still have positive things from both.
So you like the, not only the creativity, but perhaps the art and artifice
Yes.
that goes into constructing that alternate reality, that alternate world from scratch.
Yeah, absolutely. And um, so every movies now use a lot of digital things, so it lost a little bit of flavor. But all the old movies, when you had a twister, it was made with real techniques, and this is what is interesting me. And if good movies and bad movies, I will spend 3 hours watching a bad movies. I prefer to watch a Citizen Kane or the Thomas Crown Affair with Steve McQueen rather than watching the first movie of George Clooney where he's fighting crazy tomatoes.
That's very funny. But yeah, tell me now that you talked about the almighty king of cool. Um, Before we maybe get specifically to talk about Steve McQueen, what were the movies that helped inspire you, from the very beginning? I know, again, you just appreciate movies sometimes for what they are,
Yeah.
for entertainment, for the distraction, for the ability to just immerse yourself in another world for hours at a time. But were there those special ones that inspired you in a different way?
So the movie that gave me energy is Patton. It's with George S. Scott, C. Scott, um, Banner, Lawrence of Arabia, Back to the Future. They're all different. Citizen Kane, Le Mans. I love racing, so Le Mans is my reference in terms of movies. So I have a series of movies that I like to watch and rewatch and rewatch and rewatch, even if I already watched the movie 100 times. But they still gave me pleasure.
Mhm.
I went to watch Oppenheimer. I went to watch Barbie, just for the interest of see the movie, to watch the movie. But I don't know if I will be able to watch them again. It was interesting, topic very interesting for Barbie in terms of equity, equality. Oppenheimer, the topic is deep and darker than Barbie, obviously. Um, but I have my movies, the list of movies that makes me happy and peaceful.
And again, you mentioned so many different kinds of movies, so I want to kind of go into a couple of them perhaps, and try to see what it is that inspires you, or what it is that makes you feel good, what makes you feel um, hopeful. Is there one that you want to highlight within
I
that
can
list?
highlight one, but the thing is, our
Like Le Mans, for
personalities.
example.
Sorry,
Let's start Le Mans.
Le Mans. So just one thing, our personality is not linear. You have up and downs, and it's not only horizontal. You have also vertical. So if you take, you have different axes. You have X, Y, and Z, and it can go everywhere. So it's not linear. Le Mans, why Le Mans? Because it's when it was released in the movie theater, it was no one liked the movie, but it's the reference in terms of racing and the way they were shooting the movie was the first time they were doing this kind of using this kind of technology, and I love Steve McQueen as an actor and what he represents. He's still an icon, and he died um almost 50 years ago. So it's still impacting our world today. And Le Mans is great because it shows a moment of history where people were enjoying the race, the event. It was simple. You have seen of seeing people how they watch the race. You see the life in France in the 70s. So you see have this flavor of the post-war people enjoying the
Yeah.
event. The race is just fantastic, and it's the car winning the race is Porsche, and Porsche is my favorite car brand. So
Well, I mean, that it's interesting that you said that about Steve McQueen, and when you when we talk about that specific movie, sometimes I'm a little bad with dates, but I think it must be like 71, I want to say.
Yeah, it's 71, but it's the race is based on the 1970.
So I mean, it's again, you have a period of time that's half a century ago,
Yeah.
basically, and that movie is still a cult movie in terms of movies that depict racing. And of course, this is something very subjective, but you can make the argument that it's not superseded until now. Um, Although I have to say, I have very high hopes about the um, Formula One movie that Brad Pitt is involved in, but we'll.
Finger crossed. I hope so.
But why do you think that a movie like Le Mans has that kind of power to reach into the 21st century, all the way back from 1970?
Because it gives a glamorous view of Le Mans. It's people love cliche, whatever they're saying, they love cliche. So I'm laughing because I have my two donkeys friend behind you making something signals.
Yeah, they're also making fun of your French accent. If you like to respond, I mean.
No, I will respond in kind later. Not publicly. Publicly, I'm a nice person. So Le Mans give a nostalgic view of the race when racing was still dangerous. It was awful because you were losing people every race. But it give a nostalgic what we love about racing. It's the same with we have good hopes with the movies with Brad Pitt. He's supposed to be a veteran that came back to help support the rookie to be a great racing driver. And Sima Queen is so good in the movie. It feels so natural because he was racing. There is no stuntman. He drove his racing car, and it's believable. It's trustable. It's real.
I mean, you probably know this, speaking of cliches, but one of the great and infinitely quotable things that Steve McQueen said is, sometimes I don't know whether I'm a racer who acts or an actor who races. So there is that kind of melding of
Yeah.
both roles in his character. And I don't really have, again, I don't have a problem with um, cliches, so to speak. It gets a bad rep, of course, but there's something about the movies as a medium where uh, we have seen so many more failures of this kind of auteur directors trying to do something profound and failing miserably. I don't want to give any negative examples, but I think that's a very easy trap to go into. Whereas you can, in fact, by submitting yourself to the specificities of that medium, by the fact that you are ultimately creating something to be enjoyed, you can get a lot out of it by building strong characters that last for that hour and a half or 2 hours, but have so much depth as well that people can work out in their own minds. And perhaps that's why it ends up being so long lasting, right? It doesn't try to tell you everything about an aspect of your life, whether that's racing or something else.
No, I agree. But what happened in Le Mans was very common in the 70s, where there was this problem during the director managing the movie and the superstar. You had the case still with Steve McQueen, where when they did the Thomas Crown affair, they didn't have any script, so they shoot, and at the end say, what we do with what we have done. So they hired this French composer, Michel Legrand, to create the music for the movie, and the movie was created based on the music. You have the case with Apocalypse Now, where they have these fancy parties where it went everywhere. Everyone went crazy, and they shoot like 900 hours of movies. And because it was the fun time where everyone was on drugs and enjoying life, they were saying, "Oh yeah, so what are we doing with the movie now?" And
I actually have a cool anecdote about that, about Apocalypse Now, but I do want to also um, say something about Thomas Crown Affair. I mean, that intro sequence, which is very clearly guided by the composition, by the music, is, I think, one of the best ever. I mean, if
Yeah.
if I may reach out to our audience now, even if you don't necessarily have time, don't necessarily fancy watching the original Thomas Crown Affair, you should at least hunt for that intro sequence. And if that doesn't pull you in, I don't know what will.
what is interesting between Thomas Crown and Le Mans is the same music composer,
Mm.
and you have this opening where there is true suspense, and the start of Le Mans in the movie, you have this heart attack sounds, and you really expect to see what's going on. You have the suspense. You think that you're driving the car, and you are at the starting line waiting for the gun to fire, and then you can start. And I think the fact that Michel Legrand is composing the music impacted both movies, and the introduction on both is very suspenseful.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
So apparently, Brando arrives on set for the shooting of Apocalypse Now, and of course he is famously overweight, out of shape, that they already had to make so many accommodations for that. And Coppola tells him, well, what's with your hair? You're supposed to shave, you're supposed to shave off your head. And he says, I don't really want to. Well, why have you spent time with the script? Have you read the book? It's like, oh, of course. And he, of course, Marlon Brando is known to be uncooperative and hard to work with. That's kind of part of his
legend.
Yes, part of his myth, right? And in fact, one of my favorite directors of all time, Gillo Pontecorvo, swore off working with professional actors after he used Marlon Brando, after he worked with Marlon Brando in Quemada, Burn, the famous anti-colonial movie. But that aside, so Brando says, yeah, of course, I've read the script, I've read the book, whatever, but I don't think I will shave off my hair. And the next morning, he arrives on set. This time, he's bald, and he says, well, I actually read the book last night, and it makes sense. I think I'll shave off my hair, which I think gives you kind of the complex and more ambivalent picture of Brando as a character. Of course, he had that legend, he had that myth of being uncooperative and quote unquote lazy, but there was some sort of method to his madness that allowed him to actually have so many iconic roles that also, I think, stand the test of time.
But at this level, I think this kind of character, Marlon Brando, Maria Callas for classical music, they have the right to behave like this because they
of course, you would say that as a Frenchman.
Yeah, no, it's because they're myth, they're legend. They have nothing to prove. What they have done in terms of working is the best. They represent excellence and quality, so they can behave like mega stars. I don't say that they're not respectful, but I assume that being at this level is not easy. When you're on the top, you have, particularly nowadays, you have everything criticizing you or finding you defects. Probably this actor might be one thing or another, and we're not celebrating for what they have done. So we are always criticizing. So it's it's kind of crazy. So Marlon Brando could be a prima donna. He deserved that. Jack Nicholson can be a prima donna. He deserved that.
But don't you think that we can always be better? Don't you think we can always aspire for perfection, which is ultimately unreachable?
So there is two things, because I assume that Marlon Brando was a prima donna on set, but he was a charming man in reality and was respectful. I have this story. There was a celebrity of one of the boutique I just delivered a day before a site visit I was doing, and this is a well-known movie star, and he was absolutely a delight with the people, treating everyone nicely. And on set, he can be treated like he's difficult. It's because these kind of professional, they want the best, and they're not accepting less than the best. So I understand. No, for me, everyone needs to treat each other respectfully, but sometimes there is condition, particularly in entertainment. It's part of the game, so it's acceptable.
No, I think that's fair. You know, as long as you set realistic expectations of yourself on yourself and on others around you, as long as there's no double standard, so to speak, I think that's something that I respect and admire.
But
Right?
on the contrary, if you're no one and you have done nothing in terms of professional and you behave like a prima donna, here we have a problem. If you're doing a scene and you say, "Oh, cut," because there is noise in the audience or whatever, this is not acceptable.
I think I know what you're talking about.
This is one of the example, but it's happening in my industry. I'm working with architects, and they think that they built the Louvre or the pyramids or whatever, and they behave like, "Oh, I don't want to reduce my scope or change the material because I'm the architect, so you need to pay for what I'm designing." No, my friend, it's not working this way. You need to show that you're clever and you need to respect your clients. So, or you downsize, you change the material to have the same look and feel, but asking my client because they have money to spend 5 times what they're supposed to invest is not acceptable. So,
This is very interesting because it gives me a glimpse and some insight into your own professional transition as well, because as far as I know, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, you're an architect by training,
yes.
which is why I started by saying, you know, you are someone in his profession who um, you know, has this interesting mixture of aesthetics and practicality. But even in the professional transition you have made, because you're no longer an architect
Yeah.
purely and simply, you seem to have prioritized perhaps a, a different set of values or approaches, is, and that has been very conscious as well, I think. Why did you make that transition? Like, were you fed up with just being an architect?
So I've been
Did
an
you want to do
architect
something
for
else?
14 years, and I work in all kind of projects: car showrooms, skyscraper, airports, luxurious retail, hospitality. I've done almost every kind of project you can imagine. And architecture can create a lot of frustration where, depending on the clients you have or the decision taken on your project. So there was this crisis in 2014, and I had to switch. I found this opportunity in Brazil, and this was great because I was still in construction, but on the other side, I was on the decision side because I'm doing client representation, and I will need a 30-second stop. Mr. Maccabi,
Yes, sir.
can I ask a cigar, please?
Yes,
And
sir.
you charge me, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Which one would you like? The Steel Buffalo Motors one?
Yes, please. So
He's only paying because we are being recorded, of course. Otherwise, we are all freeloaders here.
yeah, but we need to pay because he's not our sponsor. So thank you, sir.
Ah, that's even branded.
Yes,
Look at that.
That just arrived.
Wow. It looks sexy as hell.
I know the reason why they don't pay. It's going to cost you $85.
Yeah, it's charging me extra because of my tie and my shoes.
Next time, dress down like I did.
I'm dressed like Fonzie today. I'm cool. So to go back to the transition, is I had this opportunity to be on the client representative side, which is better in a way because I can protect what the architects are designing, and I try to explain. I can explain to my clients, this is the things I have. Thank you, sir. No. Thank you, my love.
He wanted you to use the torch.
Yeah, I wanted to be rude to him. So I change, and it's offering new perspective because you can control the budget, you can control the scope, the timeline, and sometimes architects have difficulties with that, which is acceptable because the way schools around the world are teaching you architecture, it's not the real life work. It's the glamorous way of architecture. You do fancy project, no limit of budget, etc. It's not all the school like this, but mine was a little bit this way.
I mean, I actually appreciate the way you put it because, on the one hand, you could simply see it as wanting to be in control, wanting to be in charge. But the first thing you said was, in fact, by being in that position, you also want to protect the vision of the architect, of course, within the confines and within the necessities, within the demands of the project and your client, but still you want to preserve that architectural vision.
Yeah, I want this, and I'm client focused. So I receive a scope of work and a budget for my clients, and they have a date to open their office or open their boutique. So the moment I have an architect onboarded and a general contractor, we need to focus. It's one team. So I need to have empathy and be the constraint to everyone. So I need to be clear in my communication. People needs to understand people, the stakeholders, everyone needs to understand what we're doing and the reason. It's acceptable to have some changes. The clients will change potentially their mind during the design phase or the construction phase, but it's one team. So I need to understand the difficulty from every team. So I try to support the architect as I'm trying to support the GCs, the general contractor, when we're delivering the project. So.
Well, professionally, you are quite nicely settled, I think, and from a personal perspective too. I think you are quite enjoying this aspect of Los Angeles, where you feel like you are living on a movie set almost, or where you see these familiar settings and scenes, and even sometimes people. Right. For me, one of the beautiful things about both New York and Los Angeles was precisely that I would recognize places that I only saw before, in the theater or on TV, that I saw some of these, big stars as normal people, which actually for the most part is a great experience, right? That the times that you are actually disappointed in having met your idols, so to speak, is in the minority.
Seeing and meeting is different. It gives you positive feelings to see Pacino and Stallone sharing a slice of pizza in the middle of Beverly Hills. It's nice to see James and Ben smoking cigar together, discussing about nonsense or serious topic. But meeting people, I assume that they have a very tricky life, and it's that not always want to be connected with the public. They have their problems. We all have challenging in our lives. So yes, seeing celebrities gives you a smile. You're happy to see Brad Pitt in the corner, or Leonardo DiCaprio, or Margot on the corner of the street. So it's always nice. But meeting, I don't feel obliged to connect, but I understand that they can be extremely bothered because we're connecting with them. There is moments where we can connect and cannot connect. So we need to understand that these people have life too, and we need to
Of course.
respect them. So
But speaking of those challenges, because we talk mostly about, mostly positively about your experience so far, professionally and personally, the fact that you found yourself in a nice and supportive friend group as well. But you must have faced, and you must still be facing, some challenges. You might still feel like you need to make certain adjustments. What are those challenges you are facing in your new life in the US so far?
so I would say my struggle there, it's professionally. And so professionally, I love what I'm doing because it's difficult. I'm doing stuff because it's hard. And if I want to feel clever, it's because I solve problems. And the struggle I have, well, I would say, is the relationship with people. We are all different. My private part it's what I can control. The professional, I don't control every aspect. My private life, I control all of my aspect. If I like, I do. If I don't like, bye bye. Professional life, you have this constraint where
I should learn that thing you said about your personal life.
you're not obliged. You won't. So you take the example of an apple. You like the apple fresh, and red or green, whatever the color you want, but you want to see the fresh food. You're not going to eat a apple that is a year old. So you say, oh, what? So bye the old apple. Welcome to the new apple, pineapple, whatever. Professional. So you have the constraint to work with people you didn't choose. So there is the aspect. So I'm managing people. I'm managing projects. So people have difficulties. They can be sick, like everyone else. They're allowed to have vacation, so which is acceptable. They go to parental leave. They do fancy stuff during the weekend, so they're sick on Monday mornings. So you need to substitute. So you're adding to your life workloads, unforeseen conditions that are impacting. So my struggle is to always be open to the problems and to find the proper solution to treat the problem. In terms of, so this is managing the people. In terms of project, you always have an unforeseen condition. Your client decide to have one building. You ask a special team to do a survey to see if you have hazmat material, and if you have asbestos, is a nightmare because you need to treat prior to any start of construction. You can have mercury. You can have different aspects that will impact the project. And then you have the main constraint is the budget. We all want the Rolls Royce and pay the price for a cheap French car. And we need my story is to explain that you can have a Rolls Royce, but it will be rusted and it will be an old one. And my guy said, no, I want the last one. Okay, so we need to discuss, and we need more budget, or we need to redefine your needs. You can have a fancy Ford, and I can put a Rolls-Royce sticker and pretend that it is, because currently you don't have enough budget to cover the what you need.
So you have highlighted France and Brazil, not only in terms of your own personal background and family history, but in terms of countries that you lived in and had significant experiences in. Do you miss Brazil and France at all? And what is it about those countries or the specific cities that you miss?
So I enjoy the present. So I love the life I had in Brazil. I love the life I have in France
And
or Dubai.
what part of Brazil did you?
So we're from São Paulo. I love being there, but I'm not nostalgic, and I'm enjoying my time here in LA. And I'm not saying, oh, Brazil was so great. Brazil has this positive side and negative side as well. But I prefer to live in the present and not projecting myself. And you'll say, yeah, but you like vintage movies and you like vintage cars. Yeah, I like what they are, not what they were in the past. So I'm enjoying seeing a nice design. So about Brazil, I like Brazil for what Brazil is a positive country, it's a warm country in terms of people and weather. It's a friendly country. France has its positive sides. It's always nice to go to a nice restaurant, to be able to go to a museum, to see, to go to the opera, to dress properly, to go to the opera. So there is positive aspect that I love when I'm there, but I'm not dreaming about, oh, it was great in the past. Past is the past. So it's like a book. You turn the page and you're expecting to see what's going on in the book. So
It's again that's something I should perhaps learn, but to turn the question around, to turn the tables on you again, because you said you find inspiration in all things
mhm.
that are perhaps not dated, but that still have some sort of pertinence on the present, that help you perhaps seize the moment in a different way because of the inspiration you bring from them. What is it about your Brazilian and French background that you take into the present, you think, that inspires you to be present in this moment?
I will talk first the Brazil part. So I was raised by a very strong woman on my mother's side. My mother is a strong character. Give you two examples. We belong to a very Mediterranean, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian family, where you can say that you have strong parents, and the freedom is relative. So my mother is a very free spirit. When she was 19, she decided to live in the Amazonian rainforest with the native people, because there was too pressure from the family. My grandmother was a strong character. She worked a lot. She had five kids, so she always teach hard work. My sister is the same way. My niece is the same way. She's 8, but she's a strong character. And people in life, when they will deal with her, they will have some issues because she knows what she wants. My sister is perfect for that because she's showing the correct path. She's trying to give the best education to prepare my niece to the future. So from Brazil, what I'm using every day is the respect, the hard work. It's kind of similar to the French side. My
And
grandmother and
those
my
are, the respect and the hard work that you're talking about are things you mostly learned and cultivated from your
from
family.
yeah. Being dressed properly to attend an interview or to meet your friends is something that I learned from my family, both sides. That my mother say, um, be always clean. The thing I learned for both sides is you can be an imbecile, but learn foreign language, because with that you can do whatever you want in the world. So if you're able to discuss and have a conversation all around the world, because you can speak English or you can speak German or Italian or whatever, you can do something in the world. If you only speak French, like that, it's happening a lot. And I have the case where we were managing project for American, English, Australian clients, and the French general contractor sent their best engineer and is not capable of speaking English. I feel very bad, because we're supposed to have interaction all together. So my family always told me, you can be an imbecile, and you're right to be not to be clever, but if you speak foreign language, you can do whatever you want. So it's you're more flexible, you can adapt better. So hard work, flexibility is the thing I have. In Brazil, you need to be flexible because it's very complicated to live in a country where not everything is working. Education is it's complicated, health is complicated, so you need to be able to adjust like this in a pinch. So flexibility is something.
But in a way that, you know, your family background prepared you for that as well, right?
Yes.
You know, because you already you know, spoke French, of course, but you had a very strong familiarity, if not already fluency, in Portuguese as well. And like you said, since, you know, your family, since your parents have pushed you in that direction, you also learned English, and you really feel that that gives you another window onto the world, that allows you to reach out to people and connect with people whom you otherwise wouldn't even know, right? And what about the French? What about France? What do you bring from France and from your French background into the present?
So France is more tradition. It's an older country. So when I was a kid, my grandmother and my father brought me to museum to see. You have more lessons learned. You learn from the past. You learn the mistakes, and you need to. This help you to see what will happen in the future, because even if things are moving, situation are repeating. So we'll see globally that people are looking on the far right for a reason, because far right is giving you the answer you want to hear. So it gives me reminding from what happened 80 years ago in Germany or in Europe. So you need to learn from the past. So this is what I have from my father's side: is learn your history, hard work, be respectful, be on time for your meeting. This is not acceptable to be 1 minute late. Try to hear what we were doing an interview, so I try not to interrupt you. So this is a respect I have for you. Sometimes I need to be the lower voice and to stop people, and I'm interrupting, and I'm sorry for that. So, but yeah, from friends, I learned to respect what was done in the past. It's not, oh, what we have done is great, but I want something new. I need to respect what my grandparents have done, what the family have done before, and this is what I'm keeping. So I have a huge respect for. I'm the product of the evolution of my family, so I'm not very tall, but it's the product of. I'm the best version of my family today, because I'm the end point of a series of evolution of meetings and etc. etc.
I mean, that's all we can aspire to be, right? You know, if we can really say, you know, authentically and happily that we are the best version of our background, of what our families brought into this world, I think we can all be really proud. But just to learn a little more about what you mean with learning from history, specifically in the European context, why do you think that is so relevant? Why do you think that's so important?
So until the end of Second World War, sorry, Europe was always the main occupation was war. In the history of Europe, we're at war because just for fun, we have no sports, so people were fighting. We were fighting the British, the Germans. It was the main occupation, and this is not a way you want to live. You want peace for your children. You want peace for the future. So by learning, oh, this was the mistakes made World War One, the war at the end of the 19th century in 1870. This has impacted Europe. So I consider that Europe died at the beginning of the First World War.
Europe died at the beginning of
Yes,
the first.
yes, because we have this European Union that's great. Every country are in peace, and this is the way they should be. But Europe, the strong Europe, as we think about it, died at the beginning of uh, at the beginning of World War One. The U.S., the United States, came powerful at the beginning of in 1941, and they proved their capacity to support the whole world with industry. But we blew Europe at the beginning of World War One.
So it's basically coming to terms with that fact
Yeah.
that you have basically ruined everything, and that you have to build something that is still meaningful, that's still inspiring, that people can still feel proud to be part of. Is that?
Yeah, that's true. And to go back to your previous question, so we had this conversation with my father and grandmother when she was still alive, and we want unity in Europe. So we have unity in a way, but everyone is still speaking safely. My country, where we should talk. We as a team. Europe is a team, and not we should do that to protect France or to protect Germany or to protect Georgia or to protect Romania, whatever. And this is still bothering me because we pretend to have to be united, but we're still looking at our own belly. And my grandmother always said, we need unity. It's we need fraternity around the people, and we need to listen to each other. So listening and respect the others is key. And this is one of
I mean, that is the older European ideal that I'm also more familiar with. Um, and you have kind of touched upon this, because nationalism is really coming back in a very strong way, and that happens in Europe. That happened in Brazil too, actually, as it happens. Um, do you think that we can help develop a perspective on that, coming back of nationalism, by learning from history, by learning from the recent past?
It's my great hope, because we're living in a civilization, in a world where we have access to knowledge, and this is the first time we have this quantity of access to knowledge, but we're learning anything. But my great hope is when I'm hearing people saying, oh, Holocaust never happened, just makes me a little bit tense, because people deny what happened in the past and try to rewrite the history. So we have proof, we have books, we have movies. When I say movies, documentaries, we have proof that was shot, etc. Uh, we need to go back and respect more what was done in the past and see, oh, we made some mistake. What can we do to correct that? Because seeing young person denying or going back to be too fancy Nazi or to worship Hitler makes me tense. There is this nice fiction on Netflix called Guess Who's Back, and it's they bring back Adolf Hitler in middle of Berlin in the 21st century, and you see people loving him, and they shouldn't. It's in an ethical point of view, Adolf Hitler is the worst thing that happened to this world. He killed 6 million Jews, and
Others.
and others, absolutely. Uh, the Russians are not the best on they won the war and they love to celebrate this, but communism, under Stalin, they killed 20 million people, so they're not better at this. And seeing people worshiping and seeing that coming back is difficult, but I hope that we can show that we made some mistake in the past, and we should let this in the past. We don't want to see that. I don't want to see black shirts in the middle of Los Angeles because someone wants to celebrate fascism. So you mentioned Brazil. Brazil was a dictatorship until 1985. 85. There is this there was this president not a long time ago, very looking for far right. Fortunately, France didn't went to the far right yet, but they are in the second round of the presidential election for the second time in a row. So there is this risk, and the, I hope that we can wake up and say, "Oh no, this is too bad. This is not the right way." Because it's not that the speech is nice to hear that it's the right one.
I mean, these are very weighty, heavy matters to even start thinking about and start facing on a collective level, right? And some of the countries, especially Germany, had very conscious, collective effort to face their past and learn from it. Of course, the results may be varied or mixed, and we might not be happy with it. Um, what do you think we can do about it on the individual level, though? Do you think that there's some adjustment, some some sort of a learning process or experience that we can go through as individuals as well?
I would say yes, yes, but and I hate sentence with but because as a general rule and a tip, every time someone is telling you a sentence and put but in the middle, the first part of the sentence is BS. So the yes but is you can do whatever you want, teach people. If they don't want to learn, it won't change anything. So you have you need to be conscious that we change the world because we want to change the world. If you don't want to take any actions, if you're saying, "Oh, I'll do things tomorrow, I'll do the things tomorrow," you're not doing anything. So we can we can teach to everyone, "Oh, do this, do that," because it's the best benefit for the world. We can discuss about sustainability, for example, where we need to save the world. This is a weird sentence because the world will save itself the day we men are doing too much things that are impacting the nature will answer, like the storms we have in California or earthquakes, and we will disappear and the world will stay, and we will disappear like the dinosaurs. So we need to be conscious, and we need to take responsibility of accepting that what we're doing is not correct, and we need to learn from experience, but we need to accept that something happened before, or we need to accept that what we're doing is not respectful or it's insulting for someone. So it's the decision. So you can put all the rules and processes and all the learning in place. If each human is not accepting to learn or accept this learning, we won't change anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very delicate art to convince
You
other people,
you
for
are a
sure.
teacher and you're asking your pupils to learn something. If they're not reading, they're not learning. So you see what I'm saying is the will, the will to do things, the proactivity, the will to do things that will change.
One of the members of our audience was saying, "I hope you do a show like this in the future about watches and jazz." Loving this episode, fantastic conversation. And Ben was turning up heavy metal in the background, which is probably our cue. But I have noticed your watch. I do want to talk a little bit about watches as a way of
Mhm.
wrapping up our conversation. What are you wearing today?
So it's a Breitling B1. It's part of the professional lines that Breitling has. It's a gift from my grandmother when I was granted to the fine art school in Paris 2002. So my watch is 21 years old. Um, it's it's a digital, so you have the digital screen and you have a traditional screen. Uh, it's professional because at the moment I was starting to study architecture. I was still doing a lot of sailing, and I love sailing. I love boats. And my grandmother wanted to give me a professional tool, so she gave me this watch. And in the line from Breitling, it's between the Chronos Space and the Airwolf watches. So it was done between 98 and 2003. This one is stainless, but it exists in gold, white gold, and pink gold, but it's extremely rare. It's a very good watch. I love it. It's funny because when it was launched, it was a heavy and big watch, and compared to what we're doing right now, it looks like a Swatch. It's a small, it's a small watch. It's very comfortable, and I love it because on the back it replicates
It's like a propeller.
a
Right?
propeller. Yeah,
Right, this is the case back, and this is the dial. Of course, everything we love in this channel, since it's a gift from the family that Alexandre wears just about every day. I see it on his wrist. It's a way of, again, the thoughtfulness of your grandma. Thank you.
thank you.
Of giving you a watch like this that you can wear day in, day out, rather than simply bring out on special occasions.
And I can give the watch to my children or to my niece. It's a timekeeper, so this is quality. So it will pass to the next generation, and this was the purpose of the gift. Because giving a suit, you will kill your suit. A watch, the watch can be fixed, so it was the purpose. And it's blue because I love blue. Like I love the color blue. I
Yeah.
always wear blue, so it's the reason why it's blue.
I mean, that's something that I really appreciate about watches and mechanical watches specifically, right? Because they have this legacy of having withstood the test of the time. I mean, it might be a pocket watch from the 18th century, or even a marine chronometer or something. As long as we have the tradition of watchmaking alive, there will be someone who can pick it apart
And make it work.
put it together
Yeah.
again and make it work, and it will in fact be bestowed upon the next generation to take care of it, to be custodians for it, and to again use it in their lives. um, it's something almost magical, except it's not, except it has this very technical aspect, very utilitarian aspect, that allows us to go through life, even for the simple aspect of timekeeping, even for that feeling of being in control, at least momentarily, right? Time passes, but at least you know that it does, and you can keep track of it
Absolutely.
on your wrist.
As a fun story, so as we still have the pocket watch for my great grandfather, they're still working, and so you keep this trace, and it's the link in the past. And what I like with watches is we are all saying that perfection doesn't exist in our world. That's not true. Watches are perfection, and I was discussing with the horloger from Vacheron Constantin,
Yeah,
and
Benjamin. Right?
Mr. Frey.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or Fry.
hi, hi, and it's magical because the this kind of technology in this space, and it's meticulous, and everything is working well. It's neat. Watches are perfection.
Yeah, it's like a microcosm of
Yeah.
universe, right? I don't think it's a coincidence that um, Hobbes kind of uses the example of a mechanical watch to make this point about how the creativity that we take from the divine is somehow translated onto this world.
and it's the link from the past and the future, because of course it's time, but all the brands, they are upgrading, updating old models. Breitling is doing that with the Navi timer they launched at the beginning of the 20th century, and you have the same model, and it's projecting you with new technology, new materials in the future. It's I love this aspect of transition.
Yeah, that there's something that you inherit from the past, but you won't somehow stop tinkering with it to see if you can make this minimal improvement. And like you said, it happens on such a minuscule level.
Yeah.
There's something very telling and teaching about that.
And this reminds me every time the monologue from Christopher Walken in Pulp Fiction, when he's giving the watch to young Bruce Willis.
Right.
So your father saved his watch, and I think it's kind of funny because he's wearing the watch the entire movie, and then it's part of the transition, and I like this aspect.
Well, Alexandre, thank you so much
Thank you.
for setting aside your time and having this wonderful conversation with me. We talked about family, we talked about friendship, we talked about, as we do usually, about nothing and everything all at once. Hopefully, we will continue these conversations, and we will be here at Steel Buffalo Motors next week as well. I would like to see each and every one of you here again. Please hit the like button, share this video, and continue supporting the channel.
Also tell people that they can join us at Nazareths at 300 North Cannon Drive.
And of course, if you are in Los Angeles, you can always join us at the Cigar Lounge at Nazareth's Fine Cigars, 300 North Camden Drive.
Cannon.
North Cannon Drive, or Canyon Drive. And, you know, as James mentioned last week, if you ever find your way here, we would be more than happy to welcome you at Steel Buffalo Motors as well. Thank you for being part of the community. We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.
It's actually 3:15.